This is the Microsoft Cloud Show, episode 50. In this episode, we're going to talk to two different groups about two product offerings available for context-sensitive help in Office 365 and in SharePoint. Recorded live October the 1st, 2014.
Welcome to the Microsoft Cloud Show, the only place to stay up to date on everything going on in the Microsoft Cloud world, including Windows Azure, Office 365, SharePoint, Exchange, Lync, and related technologies. Just the information, no marketing, no BS. I'm Chris Johnson.
And I'm Andrew Call.
And we're just two dudes telling you how we see it.
All right, so here we are on October the 1st, doing a little intro piece to some interviews that we've recorded recently. How are you doing this morning, CJ?
Very well, thank you. Very well indeed. It's definitely summer is gone and fall has arrived.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at you in long sleeve, kind of like sweater looking thing, and I'm like, it's still in the good 80s, 90s where I am.
You're practically in the southern hemisphere. You're so far south.
Pretty much. I tell you, it's been super overcast. We've got some pseudo-tropical depression sitting over us in Florida, so I've been experiencing the classic Seattle weather lately. But
Gotcha.
Hey, so this episode we're going to just jump right into it instead of doing like the kind of back and forth, what have you been up to lately stuff, because this episode is a bit of a recording. So the last three episodes that we shipped last week, episodes 47, 48, and 49, were some post shows with some color from the two of us from panel discussions at the SP TechCon conference that happened in September of 2014 in Boston. We shipped all of those in 1 week again because we wanted to make sure that people weren't overloaded with SharePoint specific stuff, being that this is a cloud show. But at the conference, a product was released, and it kind of dawned on me, at least, that we've never discussed this topic, and it would be kind of timely to discuss it. So what I did last week, I for those of you who are not SharePoint focused, I'm going to apologize a little bit here, but I do think that at least one of the two things we're talking about has context outside of SharePoint as well. But we're going to talk about getting help in SharePoint, or getting context help in SharePoint. And really, let me expand on that. It's really more Office 365. One of them is specific to SharePoint. One of them works kind of, I guess you could say it works everywhere, but it's targeted to SharePoint today.
Yeah. What
I did was I went through and I've interviewed two people. I interviewed Asif Rehmani with who's got a product called VisualSP from his company SharePointVideos.com. So we did an interview with him to where he explains what the product is, just had a little discussion about it. And then after that, I did an interview at the SP TechCon conference with three individuals, or I guess it happened the week after the conference. We couldn't sync up on at the time. But they had launched a product called Content Panda with three individuals, Heather Newman, Mike Thompson, and Simeon Cathey. And so we got two interviews we're going to play here. I figure we just kind of dive into them in just a second. But we explain what these products are in the different interviews here. But do you have any thoughts before we play these two interviews here related to context help in software or in SharePoint or whatever?
Yeah. So obviously Asif is a long-time SharePoint guy and has been in the scene for a long. In fact, both parties have been in the scene for a long time. Simeon and Heather have especially been involved in SharePoint for a really long time. In fact, Simeon used to work on. He was one of the original members of the SharePoint team at Microsoft and the engineering team, along with Jeff Teeper, and they really started it. So everybody involved's been around for a long time. Asif in particular has been big in the end user help space for quite some time, specific to SharePoint, right? So been doing the SharePoint videos.com stuff, or SharePoint-videos.com, which is really all about education and so forth. So he's been in the scene a bunch, and it's really great to see that he's launching this product. I guess the in-product SharePoint help has kind of been like a token gesture. Is that too mean?
No, I think that's fair. I mean, it really...
I'm sure somebody wants to kill me for saying that, but you know what I'm getting at, right? It's like, if people don't even know, there's a little question mark on the top right in 2013, and you click that and you get some help, but it's very rudimentary, right? And these products, both of them, are sort of designed of taking that to 100 on the dial. And so VisualSP, like you said, sort of integrates with SharePoint. It shows up as the ribbon tab. It sort of shows users all the stuff that they might be interested in doing in that particular part of the product. And it really leverages, their history with SharePointVideos.com. And it's really, really interesting. Content Panda, on the other hand, is slightly different in that its idea of contextual help is to, when you see it, it'll just sort of, it's really fascinating. You kind of click on the button or whatever, and then it highlights different parts of the page where help might be available. So, for example, you might have the navigation on the left, right? And so it'll highlight the navigation on the left, and you can see that there's help available for that section, and so you can go over and click on it and get in context help for it. Now, the fascinating part to me is that they've started with SharePoint for this, but it's really an in context help system that I think could be applied to anything on the web. So they obviously know SharePoint really well, and they've started with that, but it'll be interesting to see if they expand it out to other web-based systems in the future.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, I've worked with Asif for a long time, both when I ran the training company, Critical Path Training. We both are still instructors there, but he's always focused on more of the end user, the power user. And he's got a really good following, really good way of explaining stuff to people. And it really resonates. And I mean, I think that he and I have talked about how his company actually does a lot more of his product now than the consulting side of his business and stuff. So, it shows that there's definitely a need for this and that kind of help content. It's funny, you got that little question mark in the top right corner of SharePoint that you mentioned. It seems like so many products have that same kind of metaphor.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and as a developer, I never go look at that stuff. I mean, and I know that that's just me. And so I'm not saying that this is the way it is in the business. And so I'm sure that there's people out there that are using it, but I wonder if there's a part where it's perfect because that's where everybody goes to go find help. But I wonder on the flip side of it is that it's been there all the time and it's not so much helpful. And so no one goes there and they just tune it out. That's me, is I tune it out. So I agree with you. I think that, the stuff that comes out of the box, man, it's funny, how long we've come since the day when you buy something from IBM and you get a stack of manuals that were like 4 feet tall of how to use the product.
Oh yeah, I remember that. The box set of books, like the Encyclopedia Britannica of how to use a particular word.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get that, and then now you've got so now you got the stuff, the video, the content. It's exactly what people want. The Content Panda one on the other side, though, it takes a very different approach. I mean, their SharePoint approach. I'm not going to take sides to either one. I think both of them are great, and I think it's one of those things that a customer's got to sit down, they got to look at it and say, what do I need and what makes the most sense for my users? Outside of SharePoint, I really like the way that Content Panda has been able to carve out pieces of a page and provide help on it. So much so you create a full-blown web application. I could see I know that when I first started using Salesforce, and honestly still use Salesforce for when I have to go into every once in a while, I know that I would love to have had something like this to say, what does this thing do? Or what am I looking for this?
Yep.
It would be so helpful to have something like that. Or I like on the Mac, I love how when I do a search for a certain term, how do I turn off line wrapping on some product?
Yeah.
And when you do that, you do it in search, it tells you, how I turn off line wrapping. It actually opens the menu up with a little blue bar, pointing at it saying, you want this thing in the menu.
Yeah.
So it's that context help is really cool. So
I actually, although they're sort of in the same space, I see them as quite different. Asif's is really about the content, and Content Panda is really about the delivery mechanism, I think, or the tech, the concept of the delivery. And that might be simplifying things a whole lot too much, but I actually think they should go talk to each other and do a deal, because it would be awesome to get Asif's content delivered through Content Panda.
It's funny you say that, because I talked to the Content Panda guys kind of on the side and was like, God, you guys, he's got a great amount of content that you guys could actually use in yours. It would make perfect sense. And I just got smiles. So I'm sure that there's some back channel stuff going on right now. I have no idea how it's going. I have no idea if it makes sense for both of them or for one of them and doesn't for another or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not getting the business side of it, but
no.
I agree with you. And the other thing too, that you'll hear that one of the things that Simeon talked about in our interview is that, they do see it more of a platform. So, with that, why don't we just go ahead and play these interviews here and let people go ahead and take, find out for themselves exactly how this stuff works. So let's first go ahead and let's play Asif, the interview we did with Asif. So I did that. Both of them were done within a span of a week, and they were both done online. So let's go ahead and roll this first episode with Asif. All right, so I am here, I guess not live, but I am here with Asif Rehmani on the phone. And Asif and I we go way back, I guess. We've been friends and colleagues for quite a while in the SharePoint space. So Asif, in case anybody is not familiar with who Asif is, he's been an evangelist for power users and end users, starting his SharePoint career back in 2002. So Asif goes all the way back as far as I do with SharePoint, back to when things were very painful. I guess they're a little bit less painful today, Asif.
A little bit less.
Asif's also been consulting, training, speaking, and writing on these topics all the way back to when he first jumped into SharePoint. His company, SharePoint Videos, which is SharePoint-videos.com, it strives to help educate and support SharePoint users through their in-context SharePoint help system called VisualSP. In addition, SharePoint Videos has hundreds of power user-focused video tutorials on their website to empower building no-code solutions. So, Asif, welcome to the podcast. Again, you've been here before too, haven't you?
Yes, I've done a podcast before with you. It was more of I believe it was at a conference. I can't remember which one. Maybe Intersections.
That's true.
Wonderful conference we did, but it was shared. So this is the first one-on-one that I'm doing with you.
That's right. I remember I guess that was back in October of 2013.
Yeah.
We were in Las Vegas for Connections, and that's when I happened to get upgraded to have a ridiculously more like stupid size suite, and we all stood around a table and just kind of talked about what we were doing at the conference. So it dawned on me right when we were starting this going, I'm almost positive he's already in the system somehow, but that's right. We did that one. So it's great to just have you here to where you and I can just talk about some stuff here that hopefully will be interesting to our listeners.
Regarding that suite, I would call it awesome.
There you go.
If at any time you feel it's stupid, just feel free to switch with me. I wouldn't mind at all. No problem.
If that ever happens to be an opportunity to arise again, I will most certainly look you up, but I fear that might have been a one-time only thing.
All right.
Yeah, so what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today, as our listeners are aware of this, we have this episode, we're talking about SharePoint help or context help or an adoption style thing that we have in SharePoint. And specifically, we want to talk to two different vendors, yourself, and we also talked to the Content Panda guys, a new product that came out in the last few weeks. But I wanted to talk more about VisualSP and your product that you've had on the market now for a little while. And just make sure our listeners are aware of it, because it's something that I think that would be very helpful in a lot of scenarios. So why don't we get started here, and why don't you explain to our listeners what exactly is VisualSP?
Andrew, first of all, let me thank you officially for having me on the show. So regarding VisualSP, I'm going to step back just a second before I jump into the product itself. In my mind, the benefit that it provides is a lot more than the product itself. As you mentioned early on, SharePoint adoption, the whole thing about getting people to use it effectively so they can get benefit out of it and the companies can get the return on investment out of it, has been a challenge since the beginning. And unfortunately, it has not changed that much yet after 12 years that I've been involved with it. So having said that, how do you get people really to get into the product, to get into the environment and really use what they need to get their job done? That was what we started out with back in the day, way long time ago. And our solution was, hey, let's give them video tutorials, give them documents and stuff like that. And that was great, as we thought, at least, but you put it out in a knowledge base for a company and you still have to get the users there. Right? So getting the users there, we thought was one step, but turns out that's a huge step. You can't get the users there. There has to be here. And this is about 3 years ago when we actually debuted the product. That's how old VisualSP is now. We combined our content, which we've had for a decade now, with our delivery system, as you mentioned, VisualSP. And this delivery system is available, by the way, in SharePoint 2010, 2013, and online, SharePoint Online. Like I said, I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. It actually provides a help tab to the users. Simple as that. It provides a help tab to the users that follows them around as they go through the system and helps them. Okay, so they click on the help tab and it provides them tutorials, video, screenshots, tip sheets, reference documents, or even links to sources internally or externally, whatever the administrator feels that is going to help their users. It provides whatever they need and when they need it. That's the premise behind the product.
Okay, so let me roll back just a little bit here, make sure that we understand something. So prior to VisualSP, you had a bunch of training content, learning content that was out there in a video format that you had through your site that people could subscribe to get assistance or maybe to deploy it on-prem into their local SharePoint deployments.
Yes.
Okay. And so then what you did was what VisualSP is simply a new delivery model to where you've hooked into SharePoint 2010, SharePoint 2013, both on-prem, and SharePoint Online and Office 365, where you've added a new tab to the ribbon that people can then access the same content and, of course, all the new content, but they can access all of that content right in line their existing SharePoint deployments or in Office 365, the same way they could have gotten the content before, but in this way, it's an easier deployment model, or delivery system. Is that fair to say?
It is definitely fair. And I'll throw something else on there as well.
Okay.
When people look at the actual system, they feel, oh, this is it. It's just a help tab and it's got stuff. That's great. And that's exactly the benefit and the seamless effect that we're going for the users. So we have actually customers who have told us that our users don't even know that this is a separate product. They just think this is part of SharePoint. However, having said that, for the actual administrators, we provide a ton of tools to administer the product. So for example, you might not want the help tab to show the exact same help web application to web application, farm to farm, or site collection to site collection, or even at a page level, you might want things to be different. We provide all those hooks so you can control and administrate the content that goes on the help tab from anywhere to anywhere. And that's been tons of feedback from our customers going years on in now. In addition, as you mentioned, we provide a lot of content with it, and we're not done yet. So we have 105 videos that we provide right away. We provide dozens of documents and screenshots and everything else, but we're creating more and more every couple of quarters. And when we create more content, we provide it to our users, our enterprise customers for free. There's no additional charge for that. Yeah, so our goal, I should say, is to make the user successful. And we feel that we have a really good grasp on what that takes to make them successful, because we've been training, as you mentioned, I've been training, our company has been in training for a long time. But at the same time, taking our customers' feedback and taking the scenarios, the use cases, both of those things together has been so far been a wonderful combination for us to serve our customers.
You were saying then is that you can as the makers of VisualSP, but then you're saying that administrators can also go in and customize some of the content based on the web application or the site collection that the users are in, so that you can tailor it and say that you should not be able to see certain things that we don't want you doing, but other people can see other stuff?
Absolutely. What we provide is all the stock content, but the administrators, and that goes from site collection administrators on up, those folks are the ones who know their users the best, and they should be completely in control, and they are in control in our product to provide them what they should see and what they should not see. And I'll give an example as well. For example, RSS feeds is not turned on everywhere, and we have a video about RSS feeds that appears automatically. Administrator can go and say, no, we don't want to provide that to the users. Let's take that out. On the flip side, they might have some content, whether it be Word document, PowerPoint, it'd be a link to some source, whatever, that is specific to their application that they've created. For example, reseller management or invoice processing or something that's specific to their business. They might want to show that on the help tab in a specific location where it makes sense to the user. So we provide all the hooks to make that happen.
That's pretty cool. So if a customer then also wanted to go in and put their specific content for their business, like let's say, for example, the United States military wanted to buy this and they wanted to show certain content that's specific around like security or clearance or something like that, about what you should or should not post there. Do they have the ability to go ahead and add that themselves as part of the catalog of stuff that would show up in the help tab?
Of course.
Oh, wow.
SharePoint is a platform, and it's going to be ever changing and evolving, as you and I both know. And it's for those business case scenarios that we exist. It's not about how to use SharePoint. It's about how to use a system that you've built on top of SharePoint. Absolutely.
Okay. So the people that are using this today, have you seen a greater interest or adoption by people who are are new to SharePoint, are people that are getting onto the platform, or maybe trying to migrate from like an on-prem to a 365, or they're net new to the platform, or is it existing users that they've had challenges with and getting trained and using the product that's the way it's supposed to be designed? Do you see any specific market kind of showing more of an interest in something like this over another one?
Well, the biggest couple of pain points come in place when they're making a migration from, let's say, SharePoint 2010 or 2013, or SharePoint 2007 or 2010. They know that the users who are comfortable and use the interface before, they're going to have a big hurdle ahead of them. That's one big use case. The second one is where the users have been using it for a while, but they've been frustrated, or they've been using only one part of SharePoint. For example, document library comes to mind. Everybody uses that to begin with, and things get frustrating there too.
Mm-hmm.
But now the companies want to let these users go beyond just that. You know what? Use calendars for vacation processing. Use task lists for this thing. Well, how do I use it as a user? They might they do ask, and that's where these administrators and these companies, what we have seen so far, they say, you know what? We provided you this help tab. They train them. They just launch them as to, here's where you go first, tier 1 support. If you don't find what you need there, then you come to us. And what happens, Andrew, I will tell you, one of the things that I've experienced myself as well, the same kind of questions come from a majority of users again and again and again. And these administrators package up the answers to that question, whether the answer would be in video format or document or screenshot, whatever, and then they put it right in the help tab where the user would next have that question. That takes care of 80% of the support calls. Then after that, of course, there's always going to be something that the user doesn't understand, but that's a much smaller amount of support calls you would have to handle than what you used to before. That's what we hear quite a bit.
That's interesting. That makes a lot of, I didn't think about that, but the way you describe that makes a lot of sense. It's an interesting approach. I mean, I guess the 80-20 rule holds true in the question and the support side too, huh?
Absolutely. Holds true everywhere.
There you go. There you go. So let me ask you this. As someone, I mean, you have this product, you've lived in this space of training end users and training power users. I mean, we both have taught a bunch of classes for SharePoint. I focus on the dev side, you focus on the power user and end user side. I guess you're closer to the people who are really the ones that are the organization is trying to get to buy into this platform or trying to get to really adopt it. So yeah. What do you think would be like, what causes this product to be so challenging or first of all, let me take a step back. Do you find the adoption of SharePoint within an organization, do you find it to be hard? And if so, why do you find that to be hard?
I can give you a very long answer for this thing, but I'll try to keep it short. If you look at the functionality of what SharePoint provides us, the reason we have been into this product or this platform for such a long time, it's amazing. All the stuff that you can do in it, all the different kind of hooks that you can put in from other spaces to provide any kind of data, any kind of format, and have it integrate with such amazing, way with all the Microsoft ecosystem. That's from us, our side, the trainer, the consultant, the administrators, but the users are the ones who are going to make it successful or unsuccessful. And that's always been the issue, because SharePoint is one of those things where when you look at it as a user, you don't get it. You just don't get it completely. It's hard. And I've been there, and I remember that feeling still. And I see that still when I talk to, as you mentioned, I still talk to end users and power users quite a bit, and especially also the ones that are coming in for the first time or they've not been in there for that long. And I see that deer in the headlight type of look, like, where do I start? Where do I go? What do I do? What is this? It's just like a piece of paper that I've given my 3-year-old. What do I draw on it, Daddy? And that thing is still there. So because of that, you need to give them a launch point, give them orientation, give them some tools to help them when they need it and not ahead of time. That's a huge thing. You give them a lot of information ahead of time and they won't remember it. I've seen that again and again and again. So user interface being not easy to consume, not easy to understand right away is fine. It is what it is. That's where we've been handed. But now at least give them the tools that they need to succeed when they need something. And that's what we have been trying to accomplish.
That's as someone who has taught a bunch of classes, you just opened my eyes to something that I had never thought about, which is you can give everybody all the tools they could possibly need at the very beginning, but they're not going to retain every single little thing. The challenge is that 2-3 weeks down the road, when they need that one thing that you talked to them about on Wednesday afternoon 2 weeks ago, they're trying to remember, and what did he say? And so that I can see where VisualSP really, and context sensitive help can really help, because this is going to sound so cliche, but I need the help when I need it. I don't need the help right now.
Right.
I don't need to know how to drive from Florida over to Washington. I don't need that right now. But when I have to go drive from Florida to Washington, I need it right then. So going to study it right now is great, and it's something I'd have in my head, but it's something I'm going to be able to retain and actually use it. That's an interesting point. So was that one of the drivers behind VisualSP is that mindset?
Absolutely. That's the main thing, honestly. I've done, as you have done as well, I've done many end user trainings. And honestly, there was one particular one in Chicago that I did that I felt so bad about afterwards, because I stayed on site for that one afterwards. And these guys the next day were asking me the exact same questions that I covered the day before, when they were nodding their heads like, I understand. And I felt so bad. I felt like I ripped the customer off or something, But we do the best we can. The customers grasp the best they can. But honestly, for an end user, the pain only comes in when they need to accomplish a business scenario, and that's when they need help.
Yeah.
That's when you or I or the other person who has helped them before is not there. That's where we need a tool for them to be there, to feel empowered. They should not feel that, I'm all alone. They should not be alone. They should have something with them to guide them.
That's a good point. I mean, you're right. I mean, I don't know if it's just a Chicago thing. I had a guy in a class recently, same thing, where I was explaining something, and I literally explained, I started the explanation with, and here's what this does. And I explained it, and I finished with, and that's what this does. And he raises his hand and he said, so what's this thing all about? Right. And it wasn't even the next day. And you sit there and you're like,
oh my God,
please tell me it's one of those that you have that relationship joke. It's like, it's not you, it's me. But in that case, I felt like it was more of a, look, it's not me. That one was you. I just explained. Yeah, it makes sense. That's interesting. I mean, I've been aware of VisualSP for a while, but to hear you explain it like that really helps. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to keep the help as close to the user when they need it, the context-aware help. So that's nice. And and you find a lot of people you're saying they see it as part of the product, huh?
Yeah. And we're still learning from our customers. One of our customers, and I don't want to mention specific ones, but we have some really, really big ones out there that everybody hears about and all. But one of our customers actually taught us something where they took one of the help items and they converted that into a big contact support button. So it's a help contact support button that's always there in the help tab. So in case a user doesn't find what they need in the help tab, click on this, and now you have called support. The help item could be anything you want it to be, including what they taught us, what they used it for. So yes, giving users that hand to always be called upon, easy within the product, raises their level of confidence, raises also their self-esteem, their empowerment, and everything that goes along with the whole adoption thing. Doesn't matter if it's SharePoint or not. Always a user wants to feel that empowerment and that help for them to take that next step.
That's interesting. That's cool. It makes a lot of sense. Is there anything that you wanted to share with our listeners before we wrap this up? I guess we've been talking here for about 25 minutes or so. We try to keep our episodes somewhere, under an hour here. So
Sure.
With discussion with you and discussion with the Content Panda guys, I'd like, is there anything else that you would like to say in parting here about VisualSP?
Well, regarding this particular product, I would suggest people to go to VisualSP, that's VisualSP.com, and then see for themselves exactly with the screenshots, the tutorials, if it's a benefit to them or not. And also, there's a light version of it, which is completely free. See if that makes sense. There's a 30-day trial for the premium product. Download it, give us feedback, let us know if we can help in any way. We're always looking for customers and non-customers to provide us the feedback to help the SharePoint community better. let us know how we can do that.
Awesome. Well, that was one question I was going to have for you is where can they get more information about it? So you said visualsp.com.
That's right.
And then where can people catch up with you? You're on Twitter, got a blog, your site. Where can people go to actually find you?
Yeah. Well, the best and easiest way for anybody follow or not is at asifrehmani.com. That's ASIFREHMANI. Not .com, I'm sorry. That's a Twitter. So at Asif Rehmani. That's the best way to get in touch. Otherwise, they can always go to SharePoint-videos.com or VisualSP.com and contact us through that.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure that we put all those links, your Twitter handle, and then the SharePoint videos link, as well as VisualSP's link. Make sure all that stuff is in the show notes for our listeners. So if you didn't write that down quick enough, then no worries. Just come to the MicrosoftCloudshow.com, go to episode 50. You'll find all that information, as well as Asif's contact information in the show notes. I've got his home address and his home phone number, where you can find his favorite restaurant that his family likes to go to on Tuesday nights.
You got it.
I'm kidding. We won't do that to you. But Asif, hey, thanks a lot for taking the time out to talk about this. I hope I learned something here. It was all audio VisualSP for me, but I learned something from this too. It was very, very beneficial to me, and I hope that it was for our listeners as well. So thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, AC. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, so that's the first interview that we just did with the context help. We did that with Asif Rehmani from SharePoint Videos, and again, all the contact information for SharePoint Videos and how to get in touch with Asif and how to find him on Twitter and blog and all that stuff. All that's going to be in the show notes. Go check it out there. So why don't we go ahead and dive right in and just say, hey, look, we got another interview, and we did it with Content Panda. So we got 3 people that we talked to here, and why don't we go ahead and roll that? All right, so I'm sitting here, virtually sitting here, with the members of the Content Panda team. So we've got Heather Newman, Simeon, Cathey, and Michael Thompson. So how are you 3 doing today?
Awesome. Good. How are you, Andrew?
Doing fantastic. How are you, Mike?
Very good. Thanks, Andrew.
Awesome. So before we dive into this, I thought it would be helpful for our listeners just to get an understanding of what are we talking about? What is Content Panda? So do one of you want to just give us a quick little overview on what this is, and then we'll kind of dive into a little bit deeper as we go through the interview.
Sure, I'll take that one. This is Heather. I guess the only lady on the phone, so you got my voice pretty good there. Anyway, Content Panda, we just launched last week our free version of our product. It is an in-context help and training app for Office 365, SharePoint Online, and SharePoint 2013. And what that means is that we bring curated content, search results, videos inside Office 365 so an end user can get to it with one click. And it's a free app, so absolutely free.
So free app, you mean as in Office 365 or in SharePoint, they can very easily install it from the public store?
Well, we can install actually from the app catalog. So we're hopefully going to be in the official app store coming up soon in hopefully October. So, yep.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, so we're like very recently gone live. So stuff is still hot off the press, you see.
You betcha. Yep.
Awesome. And you guys announced last week at SP TechCon?
Absolutely, on Wednesday. Yep.
Oh, cool. So where did this idea come from? How did this kind of come to fruition?
I'll take that.
Okay.
This is Simeon. I've been working a lot with customers over the years with SharePoint deployments and just technology implementations for companies. And one of the big challenges once you get your deployment and your apps out in front of business users is driving adoption. There's a number of ways to drive adoption. We believe that the best way to get users enabled is to get the content they need when they need it, right where they're working. So they don't have to switch context. So on-demand help right inside the SharePoint interface.
So, and when you're saying that it's going bringing the content into their face, like right in context of where they're working. So can you explain a little bit of because we're all audio here, what does the experience look like for someone that's got Content Panda already installed? What would the end user experience look like today?
So your user experience doesn't look much different than your typical SharePoint site. We add one button that follows you around the site in the shape of a little cute panda. The panda is kind of always there. And when you have a question, whatever page you're on within the SharePoint platform, you just click on the panda's face and items across the site light up.
Okay. So when you say that, the icons like following us around, is it like pinned in the ribbon, pinned on somewhere on the page somewhere, or is it in the toolbar somewhere, or how is it manifested on the site?
Originally, we thought a nice question mark, like a typical help icon, would be satisfactory. But the Panda actually stays over on the right-hand side of the screen, kind of out of the way.
Okay.
If you call it Content Panda, you kind of got to have a panda face, right?
Of course. Why not? Right.
So the marketer was like, I want a face. I want a face. So we chose to put the Panda tab on the right-hand side, and it stays there wherever you go. And you can click it on and off. You can click the actual face of the panda, and there's also a number below the panda. The number represents the number of items that are highlighted or lit up, as we kind of say, on the page that have help content, videos, training behind them. So once you've clicked on the Panda tab and have the areas lit up, they have kind of a gray highlight around them. And then at the top, there's a plus. So, and the plus pulses at you a little bit so that you kind of are like, oh, what's that going on over there? So you push the plus, and with that, we have a Panda panel, if you will, that flies out and opens up there. And you can, it's great on touch or with a mouse. And that has all the different information in it that we've talked about, sort of a title, a definition of what it is you're looking at. IT Unity, our content partner that we can talk a little bit about later, a highlighted, curated piece of content from them that is directly related to whatever it is you're clicking on. We also have Bing Federated Search, where we go out and we've done predefined search terms, and we're pulling in the best content available for that question. And also we've handpicked a video that goes along with it as well. So all of those sort of 5 items are in that Panda panel so that fly out and are part of that free version that we have. And the last piece of it is a rating system at the bottom where you can rate the content as well.
Okay, so when I just go to a standard SharePoint site that already has Content Panda installed, then all I see is this little tab that's like pinned to the right side of my browser window. It doesn't interfere with the rest of the UI, but it's just over here saying, hey, look, you've got this help system that's already integrated into it with a number of how many things we know about that are currently on the page. But even if I just put my hand over the Panda, still the rest of SharePoint looks the exact same way as it does today. So it's not very intrusive.
Yep.
In how it looks. But when I want the help and I click on Content Panda, then everything lights up saying you've got help here, 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 and here. And when I click on something, that's when I see the real context help that's got maybe a video, the Bing Federated Search, and all the other content from the different sources that people have provided. Is that correct?
You betcha. The Panda follows you anywhere you want to go, where you want to go on a site, and it has your back.
Oh, so the Panda's like the NSA. No, I'm kidding. Hello to the nice NSA agent that's reviewing our content right now. I do appreciate you for what you do. All right, so how exactly does it work then? I mean, how did you go about implementing it? Is there something that I have to do to my SharePoint site to get this to work aside from just installing an app? Is it only work on-prem or Office 365, or do I need to know an admin? I guess how do I actually get this up and running on my site?
Well, basically, there's a couple of ways to do it. There's Office 365. ContentPanda.com right now is where you can go to get the install. So we have an installation page, and it sort of depends on what type of SharePoint installation you have, right?
Yeah, so if you have an enterprise Office 365 subscription, you can just download the app and drop it into your app catalog, and it's a simple click to install. If you have the small business version of Office 365, you can add one line to your master page. And if you have an on-prem version of SharePoint 2013, we'll be delivering here shortly a WSP that you can just plug in and install as a native solution.
I see. So Heather, you're filling the role of like on the marketing side of this too, and Simeon, you're kind of like how would you describe your role in this?
Business development.
The business development, okay. And Mike,
CEO as well. So
okay. And Mike, you're the technical side behind this. You're the guy that's built this. Is that correct?
Yeah, I execute on the dreams of Simeon and Heather.
Very well stated. Okay, so you're the one that went through that built out the piece that we're integrating into the SharePoint site. You built the app, you're building the WSP that's going to go in for on-prem environments that don't have the app model, say, configured. Is this product, this Content Panda, is it designed to work with just the current version of SharePoint, with SharePoint 2013/Office 365?
So the one that we went live with was designed specifically for Office 365, but the architecture for the application itself is kind of agnostic to the platform that it lives on. So it's a web-based platform. It doesn't even have to be SharePoint. And we've been kind of jumping through all the hoops to make the installation process as easy as possible for the SharePoint users. And we obviously naturally started with the Office 365 app model and then went with the app catalog. Now we've got a WSP that we're working that releases with a delegate control. But yeah, so it's kind of a web technology that's leveraging JavaScript or jQuery, CSS, those types of things. Yeah. Nope.
Okay. So that you mentioned something too that said it was like agnostic of the platform. So this is not just a SharePoint thing. This is a tool that can be used really across any web platform, or if anybody had an existing big web enterprise. So you're saying that then I could take it to like a SharePoint 2010 deployment. I could take it to other web properties that I have. It's really the piece today that you've gone live with was targeted at 365, and the deployment vehicle is built to very easily get it into a SharePoint site today.
Yeah, the content is all targeted towards Office 365 at the moment, but there's nothing that prevents the technology from being leveraged in 2010, 2007. We haven't tested anything in 2003, and I don't know how many of those instances are still floating out there. Other apps as well, like Salesforce or SAP, it would technically work in. So,
as we say, for the people who are still on 2003, then we still they have a technical challenge that they're having to deal with, and then we have the virtual hug that we'll happily give them by still being on 2003. Heather,
yeah, I think when we do have grand designs on this, we started in this space because we are all familiar with this space. Simeon and I both have been in this space for, I don't know, definitely over a decade. Since it was Tahoe, 15 years. Like you have, and Mike's been in this space a long time. So we started with the community that we know and love, and a solution that we thought would help a community and end users. I use Content Panda all the time now because I get into SharePoint as a marketer, and it's just, you forget things sometimes, right? You're like, oh man, how do I do that? And you only do it once in a while, right? And so to just know that you can get it right there when you need it, and that's a business use case. Like I'm a marketing person that puts documents up, and it's like building out workflows and all that kind of thing. And so, however, I think for us, the other thing that's really exciting is that, this is not only for SharePoint. Like, we have grand designs on, I would love this to be the way that you get help in every software product that's out there, because now I'm used to it and I want it. When I'm in something else, I'm like, where's my Panda? And it's funny. And I'm saying that with like a heck of a lot of bias, of course, right? But I really am starting to feel that way about it, which I think that's why I love the idea, and I love what we've done with the product so far. And to be able to take it into a Salesforce or an SAP or something like that could be really, really interesting for us. So we've started where kind of, our heart has, been for a long time.
Our roots.
Our roots, yes. But are definitely thinking about how we can maybe change the way people do this in the world,
Yeah.
So.
As a fellow startup person, I know that, having a product that you can speak to your existing audience and then being able to branch out from there. The vision is bigger, but you speak to your audience, you speak to your tribe that you have right now to really get it going and stuff. That makes perfect sense. So looking at it, I see like out of the box that Content Panda's got a bunch of predefined keyword search terms and content from publisher, the site IT Unity that we're familiar with. And as you mentioned, handpicked videos and federated Bing search. All of them, it looks like they're contributing to the content or the content that's being served up. Specifically around IT Unity, can you tell me a little bit about that relationship, how Content Panda and IT Unity kind of tie in together?
Sure. Yeah. So, you being an author and I definitely am supporting IT Unity as well. It was really kind of a no-brainer partnership. We've been buddies with Dan Holm for a long time, and Jackie and all the folks over there. And, when we started this, close to 3 years ago, the big thing that we had the technology, we had the vehicle. Mike was building deving out a great platform, but we were constantly kind of worried about the content. Where are we going to get the content, and how is it going to be specific and the best, and the most relevant and stuff. And there's a lot of wonderful providers out there, a lot of other folks besides IT Unity that we're talking to, because we'd like to bring some other content inside, maybe some training content and some other curated stuff, and or places where someone has a subscription to something and it could go through Content Panda and look at a subscription and be like, yes, they're valid. We want to bring that in, etc. That's kind of roadmappy stuff that we can talk about in a minute. But as far as IT Unity goes, timing was really good, to be honest. IT Unity launched in April, and having it be that one-stop shop conglomerate of all of the best Office 365 and SharePoint authors, MVPs, influencers, guru types, putting their content through one place for us was kind of a no-brainer. It was like, okay, yeah, can we please work with you? Yeah. And then, someone like Jennifer Mason Roth, who is, an end user goddess out there writing amazing content. We tapped her to talk to her about, the product and what do you think? And can you help us make sure that we're curating the right pieces? And so she got really excited and has been a huge proponent for us. So I'm going to say thank you, Jennifer, right? Amazing and wonderful. But yeah, so I think honestly it was sort of serendipity. And when you're getting, that specific content that really drives home what an end user needs, exactly kind of when and where they need it, that's what we needed for the product. But, we have the ability to feature pretty much any content we're a vehicle, that's why we talk about being a vehicle and being a platform for the in-context help. We're trying to bring the best of the best into and inside the software, so that could be, a value prop for an end user, but it also, I think, could be potentially a revenue stream, or just another way to gain awesome eyeballs into clients for a content curation house or a training company.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So when you're saying you're working with other training partners, bringing in another like custom experience for them, are you saying they're bringing in a more customized experience for specific customers or for training partners, or how do you envision that working?
Yeah, that's the next step on our roadmap. After the free version launch, we're trying to get as much feedback as possible from anybody that owns SharePoint. And our offering coming up pretty soon is going to be some on-prem deployments. We've got a couple of customers who are interested in looking at that. And in their case, they've already invested in their own training content, their own knowledge base material that they've collected over the years, their support tickets that have been resolved and added to their own local knowledge base. We're going to bring that content in and show it in the context of their business. The free version today is fairly generic SharePoint help content. But when you get inside of a business's firewalls, there's a lot of value in making it business contextual relevant as well.
That makes a lot of sense. So you also talked about having other partners that are out there, but I mean, if you look at the competitive landscape, I know there's another product that's out there too that does, it seems like context help as well inside SharePoint, called VisualSP. We're going to have Asif, the owner of VisualSP, in this same episode, another interview as well. So I was going to ask him the same question. How do you see your relationship, or how do you see that product compare, contrast? How do you see the Content Panda and VisualSP compare and contrast?
Well, let me start by saying that Asif is a SharePoint rock star. He creates amazing help content, video content, and delivers it right in the SharePoint ribbon. So if you're in a calendar view, for example, you can pop into the ribbon and get video help right there where you need it. He's focused mainly on SharePoint, I believe. That's kind of his focus. We've been having some conversations with him, and we'll continue to do so to talk about how we can potentially also be a content delivery platform for his content and continue to kind of bring the community together. Our platform is sort of content agnostic and platform agnostic. So if you think about it, it's almost a content management platform and content delivery platform.
I see.
And I think, at the end of the day, I think, we both have in-context help apps, right? Yeah. So that's true. And there is a bit of probably co-opetition that I would see here. I mean, it depends on, do you want your help in the ribbon or do you want your help on a Panda tab on the side? It's kind of personal preference, I think. We are definitely looking to be more of a vehicle for additional content players, and we're looking to expand outside of SharePoint. I don't think Asif right now, I think his is only SharePoint, which is a differentiator. I honestly, I know his product a little bit, but I don't know it deep enough technically to tell you the ins and outs of like install versus this versus that. But it's one of those things where, the community is so large and wonderful, and there's such a great ecosystem out there that it's, there's enough pie for everybody I think, in the landscape. But we definitely want to work with him, and his content's awesome. So I would love to feature it in Content Panda, because that would honestly just be more eyeballs for him on the great content that he's already producing. So
cool. Makes sense. So you said I was going to ask you about some of the additional features that you're coming next with the pro version of Panda. I think that's something that did you have anything else to add to that, or I think we just got that a second ago. Is that?
Yeah. I think a few things like Simeon was alluding to. It's kind of like with anything, right? Everybody wants to always customize whatever it is. It's like if you get a new phone, you want to put your own case on it, you want to put this on it, you put that on it. So, and those are things that, you kind of pay for the privilege of doing, just like anything else. Do you want fries with that? Yes, I do. So, the Panda, we love our Panda, of course. But, if there was a logo or another animal or something that someone else wanted to switch out, like an otter or something, or I don't know, whatever, that's definitely doable and something to talk about. But also I think it's that being able to customize, tag, bring in step-by-step instructions or collateral even, and the knowledge base, all those sorts of things are something that we definitely want to serve up in sort of an editor kind of functionality, so that there's an actual editor for someone to use and bring in content in a way that is smart and easy and all of that sort of thing. And then also we're looking at business intelligence. One of the things is, so I was in Duck's Raymond Size session at SV TechCon, and he was talking a lot about being a responsive business. And I think in being agile, and, I think Adam Pizzoni from Yammer talks about that as well, about, what is it to be responsive? And I think one of the things that that Content Panda brings to the table is to help people have a more responsive business, in that you could understand a little bit deeper of what folks are doing with their SharePoint sites. So we're looking at a business intelligence analytics reporting structure, so that we can serve up to a partner with their customer or an IT admin, basically by doing some tracking on the back end of mouse clicks and where people are going and what they're doing and what they're clicking on. And how great would it be for the Microsoft Office 365 team to know, hey, they're clicking on this particular quick link over and over and over and over again. Maybe you guys should fix that, or put some, or make it, change the name of it so that somebody, isn't clicking on it because there's a problem, or why are they clicking on it? So, I don't know. You want to talk a little bit more about the back end of that? So,
yeah, the user analytics piece, I think, is really important. The small and medium business community, their solutions today to get real analytics about usage require some pretty heavy-duty third-party tools. With Content Panda, we'll be able to start tracking and delivering some of those reports to give people insight into what their, who their power users are, what content is most popular, and which departments within an organization are getting the most value out of SharePoint, and probably more importantly, which departments are not getting value out of SharePoint, and being able to address that with an adoption or training plan. So we think there's going to be some good value there. We'll have a kind of a paid subscription model for that coming probably towards the end of the year.
Well, that's big. The business intelligence stuff for seeing how users are actually using your system. It's something that I know I've been on a couple of projects where we've implemented something like that using Google Analytics, but it's something that you've got to get a developer involved, and you've got to program it, and it takes a significant amount of work just to get the data capture points, not to mention all the analytics that's going to be done on that data. So that's something, that's a heck of an offering that would definitely be appealing to see coming from Content Panda down the road. So yeah, Heather.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things, sort of thinking with like a sort of an executive-y marketing hat on, or just an executive hat, that, everyone's always trying to prove out, ROI and ROMI and all that stuff, like prove your investment. Have you, are you cutting time on support? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? So I think a lot of that usage information is for that sort of first tier IT admin that they can then roll up to their CIO and say, hey, we understand our environment a little bit more because of this tool potentially. And hey, you know, at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants, right? Is to be able to show those numbers up, check their, you know, boxes on their scorecard and, you know, keep their jobs. So if this is something that we can offer to help them do that, I'm all for it.
Oh, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So I guess the one question that I have just to finish off with is, why the name Panda? Why Content Panda?
Everybody loves pandas.
Everybody loves pandas.
Who doesn't love a big furry panda? The true story is, on a flight from Seattle to Los Angeles, I was sitting with my 14-year-old daughter, and I said, honey, we need to come up with a name for this product. I've got this idea. I think it could really help people, you know, help people understand and adopt technology. And she said, well, Dad, look at this picture I have on my phone of a panda. And I said, that's it. That's great. And what does the panda do? Well, the panda serves up content where and when you need it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I love getting in the names. Like, how did they come up with this name, or how did this company come up with that name? Because it's always, sometimes it can always be like this, you know, really interesting. Really, it provides some insight into kind of what you're trying to do a lot of times. So,
and as a enterprise application solution provider, we debated long and hard about whether Panda was the right name for it, but we love it, and the feedback we've gotten from the community has been great.
Cool.
I also think that, you know, after we named it and then doing a little bit more research into it, and, you know, who doesn't love a panda, right? But then knowing a little bit more about them, it's, you know, pandas are also something that, you know, are protected and need conservation and need help. So sort of the juxtaposition of something that gets help from the world that might give back help in a way, you know, it's kind of fun to think about.
That's neat. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Mike, Simeon, Heather, thank you very much for the time. I hope this will be very useful to our audience, and hopefully they'll come to the site. Where do they actually get more information about Content Panda today if they want to go look at it?
www.contentpanda.com.
That's pretty straightforward. Sounds pretty easy to me.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, we would love everyone to come poke the panda as much as humanly possible. So.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much, the three of you, for taking the time to talk to us a little bit about this. I'm sure our listeners will be very interested in it.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, CJ.
If you have a question for us, go to microsoftcloudshow.com/questions, where you can submit it as text or record it as a WAV or MP3 and provide a link so we can play your question on the show. You can subscribe to us in iTunes by searching for Microsoft Cloud Show, or via RSS at microsoftcloudshow.com, where you'll also find a full transcript and show notes of each episode. You can also find us on Facebook searching for Microsoft Cloud Show, or on Twitter at MS Cloud Show. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.